Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Today I want to be very skeptical. Skepticism. Doubt. Disbelief. Well, no. Actually, it's one of the funny things about skepticism is that skepticism originally was an idea that you don't know the truth, so you should be open to experience. And over time, of course, it's changed. I mean, we've had thousands of years of skepticism as a philosophy, and now we have a modern religious context, and I mean in that I mean scientism, scientific materialism, which is functionally religious. We have a religious context in which skepticism is a doubt of anything that doesn't match your worldview or your preconceived notions. And that's funny because skepticism is often, in the modern definition, is often defined as a doubt, especially a doubt of belief or dogma. But skepticism is a part of a belief system and a dogma, which is interestingly backwards. So let's look at skepticism as a positive aspect, a positive force. When you go to someone and say, I am skeptical, what you should mean, and this can change everything about your life, what you should mean is, I am suspending judgment and allowing experience and input. That's not how it's used. It's especially not how it's used with scientific materialists, material positivists, materialists in general, especially in the progressive world, especially in the anti-political world, anti-politician world, especially in the parts of our society that are fundamentally based in finding or making other people wrong, which is a fundamental problem with our political landscape right now. Making or requiring other people to be wrong is a very big basis of things right now. And skepticism, it plays a huge role in that, big part of that. And what it is doubt, disbelief. And it goes beyond a rational doubt. So there is something called empirical skepticism or scientific skepticism, which has nothing to do with doubt, only to do with observation. Skepticism in a proper scientific context merely means that you seek empirical evidence to enable you to pass judgment on something. It doesn't mean that you have doubt. It just means that you don't have belief. You have observation, an interest, an inquiry, a curiosity about finding evidence, especially empirical evidence, which is funny because empirical evidence is used as a fallacy by skeptics, modern skeptics. Okay, so let's take a look at how you apply or what you should think of skepticism as. And originally, the philosophy of skepticism had a practical value, achieving mental equanimity, tranquility, through means of suspending judgment. Suspend judgment on the reality or the believability of something. So suspend judgment, experience reality, and you will be more equanimous, more tranquil. That actually goes with that. You don't get so caught up in right or wrong if you are observing instead of judging. And that's the fundamental thing about skepticism. It evolved into the question, can we know anything? Is it possible to even see objective reality? And it's really not. Everything is interpreted by your interpreter, Even the enlightened person who has the direct experience of reality I've noticed when I've had those moments that there is still a map, a perception, it's even when you feel at one with the universe, when your head completely blows up and you literally can't talk for 3 days because you're like, there's still a person, an experiencer. Even if it's the universe experiencing itself, it's still there's not agency, but there's still an experiencer. It's bigger than you. It's the entire universe at once. Okay, that's still not reality. It's beingness. I'm getting off into a place where most people aren't going to be able to actually. We can't have a conversation, especially in English, about this. But the idea here is to suspend judgment, not to negatively judge. Skepticism is not a tool of negative judgment. It is not a tool of doubt. Okay? Not in the modern sense. It's a tool of observation. Suspend your judgment, get the experience, then you can apply it. And this is where pragmatism comes in, which is tied to the rest of the video, tied in here very deeply. Pragmatism is a Western philosophical tradition that is based on utility, usefulness, application, functional reality. Okay, I hate to use the word utility because I hate utilitarianism in general. And pragmatism took a wrong turn in like the 1920s, 30s, and we have two main branches now that are going different ways that have recovered pragmatism. We don't have to get into that. Pragmatism, at its most core basic level, is just a philosophy of does it work? Not, you can't find a deeper truth in something unless you first find does it work? You can't figure out why it works unless you know that it works. Okay? Basic pragmatism. You can't try to figure out all the whys and all the meanings until you know if it works. Okay? If you turn the screwdriver and the screw turns, good. Now you can philosophize about it. Okay, pragmatism, it concerns itself with workability. If this thing happens, if it works, then it doesn't matter if it's magical, religious, technical. It doesn't matter what framework you have around it. Does it work? That's the key part. In fact, this is a huge reason why psychology ended up finally developing was pragmatism. Pragmatic skepticism is what you might want to consider as a new tool or a new remapping of your political and social observation, interactions, whatever we have to deal with. Everything in my country right now, everything in my society is politicized. It's politically important. What coffee you drink, what car you drive, what clothes you wear, what color you are, how your hair is cut, how you talk, the words you use. Everything is politically colored and important. And in a situation like that, in a world like that, you need to come up with ways to deal with it, okay? Ways to counter that, because that's dangerous and deadly. And pragmatic skepticism is something I would like to present to you as an option. But we're dealing with pragmatism as, does it work? Is it useful? Is it usable? And skepticism as experiencing reality without judgment. Reserve the judgment, experience the reality. Reserve the bias, experience the reality. The problem, of course, is that this leads to very dangerous things for some of our political groups. Many of our political groups, because everything they do is predicated on an interpretation or an assumption or a prejudgment of justice, injustice, badness on the other side, without observation. Quite often without any observation at all. And I can get into that deeply. There are divisions, there are assumptions made without observation, just from media stereotypes, that the South is more racist than the North, and the urban North is the only place we have structural racism. The liberal urban North. You know, what happened in the South, things are much more integrated. Like my experience, and granted, I am who I am. You know, I come from a military background, so when I go out into the civilian populace, I'm looking at things from an integrated group. If I go out with a plane crew, you know, there's going to be a couple white guys, a couple half Asian guys, probably one Blasian, a black dude, whatever, you know. In my era, that would have been all male plane crew. Now, I guess that might be integrated also if it's a non-combat plane crew. I don't know how that works right now. We had female air crew members on different aircraft, even when I was in, but it was a intelligence thing. So I come from an integrated society, and I go out and I look at Jacksonville or Memphis, and I see less racism than when I go to Boston or Baltimore. Oh, especially Baltimore. Baltimore's horrible. Okay, back on topic, right? Pragmatic skepticism. Instead of the assignment, okay, and that's where I got into this, is the media, the political parties, they have assigned a judgment for you to hold that you don't have any direct experience of. Instead of applying that judgment, that bias, that what they call skepticism about anyone who denies the truth, the justice, why don't you try pragmatic skepticism? Does it work? And it's not a yes or no question, it's a sometimes question, you know, does it work? And what's going on? Skepticism in that context is an openness to experience, a removal of doubt, not an application of doubt, but a removal of doubt. Stop your disbelief, stop your doubt, open yourself to experience. Much more positive. Same with pragmatism. Pragmatism is stop trying to tear things down, see if they work. Stop trying to use ways to justify, argue for or against. Logical structures are a kind of like a touchstone of worry for me, or a touchstone of doubt for me. If your explanation of reality or your justification for a position relies on a huge array of logical reasoning structures and not observation of reality, I'm going to have problems. I'm going to automatically have some negative observational bias, okay? And here I am, you know, talking about skepticism is being open to the experience. Well, yeah, laugh at me, okay? I'm laughing at myself. But it's one of those things that I look at, you know. A lot of people try to justify things that are unworkable, that you can observe not working, that are not pragmatically available, pragmatically real, pragmatically workable, with logic chains. And trying to use logic as a creation of reality doesn't work. It's a very bad thing, because all logics are biased. All logics are biased. All logics rely on some core fundamental belief or goal or purpose in the logics. And you can't really get a pragmatic, positively skeptical, observational sense of reality and workability if you come at it with a preconceived idea of what must be and how it must operate. This goes to the left progressive social justice crowd, and it goes to they're considered right now, even though they're not really right. It's not really right-left. The libertarian anarcho-capitalist crowd. They tend to build these big, huge structures of logic, both sides, which fall down the moment you go into reality, the moment you deal with actual humans. And we talk about humans being messy. You know, you get into humans are messy, and the rules don't work. It's actually kind of the opposite. Humans are beautifully simple, but they're very hard to explain in terms of logics, of rules, of legalistic thinking. And so, in conclusion, before this video gets too long, let's talk one more time about what you might want to look at for a positive skepticism, okay? Instead of doubting everything, think of it as suspension of judgment to achieve a mental equanimity. You are observing without judgment. That's true skepticism. And take a pragmatic view. Pragmatism does not mean immoral or amoral. That was added onto it by people who were opponents of certain pragmatic thinkers. Pragmatism is an observational philosophy. Does it work? Can you use that? That's the key, okay? Real, proper, decent moralities and ethics are based on pragmatic skepticism in this positive sense. Does it work? Just, does it work? Good. Key element, does it work? Don't try to make something that doesn't work into the foundation of your morality. Does it work? Can you just observe it? Can you observe it? Can you suspend judgment? What's going on? All right, another long video. Stay sideways, have a good one, and I'll see you soon.